On today's video, we're going to talk about netting fish. Hey there, outdoor YouTubers. It's Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. And I know a lot of you guys watching out there have netted a lot of fish, right? But maybe some of you haven't. So I thought today maybe I'd just go over a couple of quick tips when you're netting fish. You always want to net them head first, right? You try to net them tail first. A lot of times they're going to scoot away on you. You're not going to be able to scoop them up in the net. And another thing when you're netting a fish, sometimes you want to be like a little bit stealthy, You don't want to be like lunging at the fish or making a lot of noise on the surface of the water before you net them, because that might make them spook and run when they wouldn't have to. So if you can be a little stealthy when you kind of ease up to them and scoop them up, sometimes that helps too. And one story my dad always told me about one of the bigger muskies he caught when he was a kid back in high school. He grew up on the Wisconsin River, and he was up the river muskie fishing, and he hooked into this real nice muskie, and he was by himself, and the fish came up to the side of the boat, and he went ahead and he tried to net it, and the netting got hooked in the lure he was fishing with. It was a Surferino, surface lure, and the netting got hooked in the Surferino. The fish was not in the net. The fish makes another run, and wisely my dad lets go of the net. So the muskie takes off. It's dragging the net around with it. So it's running through lily pads and weeds and stuff. If you can imagine, if he probably tried to hold on to the net, and try to monkey around and net the fish still, chances are the Surferino probably would have just pulled right out of the muskie's mouth. So anyways, he lets the net go. The muskie takes off. He fights the fish back to the boat again, and this time he had a small gaff with him, and he was able to gaff the fish, get it in the boat, and like I said, it was one of the bigger muskies he ever caught. He was like 16 when he caught it, and so he takes back off. He back to home. He's real anxious to show his mom and dad, and he was so excited he almost forgot. This is the story he tells me. He almost forgot to hide his cigarettes before he showed the fish to his mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa. So anyways, there's a couple things that we want to learn from that story. One is you want to be very conscious of this netting hanging down when you go to net a fish. And probably the other thing we want to consider is maybe we just don't want to smoke, right? Maybe that's another good idea, or maybe a good tip from that story is to not even smoke. But back to the netting hanging down, this is something I tell all the people that are in my boat when we're using this little bit bigger net and the netting's hanging down. What I like to have them do is, if they're going to go ahead and net a fish, is to kind of hold the net like this. And as you're scooping the fish up, when the fish is in the net, then you can let go of that and pull the fish in. And it's also a good idea, not only does this hanging down netting have a chance of getting hooked in the lure without the fish being in the net, but you can also kind of like get it hung up on stuff on the side of your boat, pole holders, cleats, that sort of thing. Your electric motor, you can get it hooked up in a lot of things. These big nets hang down quite a bit. So anyways, so this is what I tell all the people fishing with me, is to kind of hang on to it like this. When the fish is in the net, then they can let go and scoop them up. And you might be saying like, well, that wouldn't have helped your dad too much. He was by himself. He's trying to net this muskie one-handed. But I know when I'm out fishing by myself with this bigger net for some bigger fish, I just put a rubber band right on the handle of the net, and I just kind of tuck it in there, and that's how I leave it on the floor of the boat. So if I get a fish on, I can pick this up. And this netting, not all of it, but a good chunk of it is held up. And when you go to scoop the fish, then the weight of the fish will actually pull this out of the rubber band, and you get the fish. So it just kind of keeps this kind of neat and tidy and kind of out of the way. And another tip for netting fish, don't leave your net on the floor of the boat and then put stuff in it. Don't let it get snagged in rods and reels when it's sitting on the floor of the boat. Don't let coolers, minnow buckets, don't put anything in the net. Always have the net nice and accessible, and if you kind of remember these things, you'll probably put a few more fish in the boat. So anyways, you also want to remember to hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. This is Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. Hey, thanks for watching and God bless.